Would you look at that? As soon as I upload my video, the restrictions get lifted. Wow, I'm really making a change. No, that's not what happened at all. When I was editing the video, I was clicking refresh on the news, and I didn't see anything. I went to like the second, third page, didn't see anything about the restrictions getting lifted. I'm uploading the video, clicking refresh, making sure that the news story didn't already break about restrictions getting lifted or something, going in a different direction. Maybe it gets worse. So I upload the video, clicking refresh while it's premiering, and then there it is. Judge lifts restrictions, and like everyone's like, "Hey, Josh, guess what? I know, go figure, right? If I had just waited 45 minutes, yeah, my bad, guys, my bad on that." But I was working with the information I had at the time, and so let's talk about the update, and then I have some more info on the judge here, and one of those is that the lawsuit is still continuing. TheDacare is still going to try and sue Ascension for poaching their workers, I guess, which is kind of silly because they're at-will employees that can choose to work wherever they want without any contracts or anything like that. And if it's true that the employees on their own volition went to Ascension to apply to a job and got a job offer, again, I don't see how that's poaching. Sharing your job offer and saying, "Hey, look at this. Look at how much money they're going to pay me, and I know what we get paid here, so, check it out." Is that poaching? Still, TheDacare wants to go to court some more and spend more money. It's always interesting to me how companies have no problem spending thousands and thousands of dollars going to court, hiring attorneys, law firms, all this stuff. Then they just like pay your workers better, treat them better. And so here's the thing with the TheDacare workers. When they told the company that they were leaving, the company didn't say anything until like the very end. They had all of this time to offer counteroffers, but they refused to offer counteroffers. They were given the chance. They were like, "Hey, do you want to match what Ascension is going to pay us?" And they said no. This is actually what happened. After approaching TheDacare with the chance to match the offers they'd been given, they were told the long-term expense to TheDacare was not worth the short-term cost and no counteroffer would be made. So, I mean, that really shows what they think of you right there. So, like, this entire thing is just going to make people scared of leaving TheDacare. Like, it already happened once, right? It's sending a message to everyone else who works there or was even thinking about working there. And this is what they think of you. The long-term expense of our employees is not worth the short-term cost. Come on, TheDacare. You're not doing a good job, like, building your case here. So the workers are like, "Okay, we're going to leave." And then TheDacare is like, "Wait, Judge, Mark, injunction, please." And for whatever reason, which is kind of blows my mind, I watched Steve Leto's video on this, and the example he gives when judges give injunctions, at least from my understanding, didn't correlate with why Mark did it. What Mark said on last Friday, is, "I was hoping that the two parties could get together over the weekend and figure something out by Monday." And yesterday, magically, he said that TheDacare did not meet the 4 prongs to keep the injunction going. And he said he couldn't come up with a better idea himself, which I don't know why he would want to, even if he could. Just get it out of your courtroom. So that's what he did. They're free to go work there, and power to the people. The Ascension employees can now go start and get paid for their new job. But again, I have some questions like, how long would this thing have gone without media attention? Why was this case entertained in the first place? Because typically injunctions are issued where it actually needs to be. At least in my opinion, this injunction over the weekend that just prevented people from working did nothing. It did nothing but just cost a bunch of time and a bunch of money. Another thing here is that if the TheDacare employees just didn't tell TheDacare where they were going, they could have just gone and started their work. At that time, they would have already been employed and working, and then would the whole court thing have even happened, right? Like, a lot of companies will ask you, "Hey, you're about to quit, right? Let's do an exit interview. Where are you going? Catch us up. Anything we need to improve on?" That's all bait. Exit interviews are bait. They're saying they're going to use your feedback to improve the company. They're going to use your feedback for ammo. Don't tell them where you're going when you quit. And I mean, it wouldn't have been that hard to figure out because you got TheDacare and then you got like Ascension. Those are the only 2 hospitals. And like, it still wouldn't have been that hard to figure out. A lesson here is don't tell your companies where you're going when you quit your job. Don't tell them. They don't have to know. They don't need to know. They'll act like it's in their best interest to know to help you, and don't tell them. Don't tell them where you're going. So bye. See you later, right? We can still be friends, but I don't need to give you all this information. Now, this is pure speculation. A lot of people on Reddit are doing digging on this story, and they looked at the judge who was presiding over this case, which is Mark Mcginnis. And so his name starts to trend, and then you start to find articles like this. Reviewer recommends Judge Mark Mcginnis no longer serve on truancy court. You might be wondering why that is. Well, it's because of a lot of reasons. How he talked to the students and the parents, or maybe it was the fact that he sent children to shelter care without informing the parents, so your kid just disappears for days until someone at the state calls you. Or maybe it's because he ordered students to wear electronic monitoring. And by the way, Wisconsin has no law explicitly allowing allowing electronic monitoring of truant students. But that didn't stop Judge Mcginnis. Anyways, you could go read all these articles. There's tons of articles about him. All you got to do is just type this in Google and look at all the things you'll find. You know, when the name starts trending, I'm sure... I don't know. This is all speculation. None of this is fact, but like if you just think about it, the name starts trending, people start diving deeper. Hey, guess what? I agree with you guys. I'm out. No, I'm not saying that's what happened at all. I'm just saying man's got a history of being investigated and suddenly he agrees with the people. Well, he doesn't agree with the people. He found not enough evidence for thedacare to prove their point, right? I'm just thinking out loud right now. All this pure speculation, pure opinion. But having said that, the Judge Mark, I didn't do enough research in yesterday's video. This man has done some things. I'm really not sure how he's still a judge in any capacity. It was this one right here. In 2008, controversy arose over a $2.7 million 15-year lease agreement Mcginnis signed with the State Department of Corrections for a building he owned. Let's break it apart. He made a 15-year lease agreement for $2.7 million with the Department of Corrections as someone responsible for sending people to the Department of Corrections, right? That's what you do as a judge. I feel like this would be a conflict of interest, a blatant conflict of interest. Even a Department of Corrections lawyer called this problematic, but the State Judicial Commission okayed the deal. That to me seems a little bit odd. So yesterday I mentioned that Mark Mcginnis put someone in jail for rolling their eyes at him in the courtroom, and he put a man named Brian Mitchell in jail for 42 days because of contempt of court. Now, let me explain Brian Mitchell's situation here. A lot of us would like to assume, oh, well, you're in a courtroom, you've done something bad, you deserve it. So Brian Mitchell is here on a human trafficking case, and he's saying he's innocent. And the entire time, he's just trying to get a speedy trial so he can get to trial and prove his innocence. Well, this is the conversation between Mitchell and Mark Mcginnis. The section begins after Mark Mcginnis cautions Mitchell's request for a speedy trial, meaning there are factors that his lawyer might not have time to prepare for. So Brian Mitchell says, I highly understand. Mark Mcginnis says, I'm not done talking yet. There's a good likelihood that the case will need to be rescheduled and pushed to a later date. Do you understand that? Mitchell says, yes, I will feel that's a conflict. Mark Mcginnis says, I'm not sure what that means. Mitchell says, I would like it at the earliest convenient on the calendar dates my jury trial. Will exercise my right to a speedy trial. If my attorney can't cooperate with that, it's a conflict of my interest. Mark Mcginnis says, how come it's a conflict of your interest? And if your attorney's on vacation, for example, on that date, Brian Mitchell says, yeah, I understand that. Mark Mcginnis goes, you must not. So Brian Mitchell says, I can sign a stipulation with my attorney. Saying that I understand that it will probably put them in a less effective. It wouldn't put me in the best defense, but that's just my decision. Me and my attorney could probably come up with some type of agreement on that. Like, he's just trying to explain to the judge what he wants, right? He wants a speedy trial so he can get in and get out. Which, by the way, all charges were dismissed, but not before Mark Mcginnis put this man in jail for 42 days. That's right. This man, case dismissed, had to serve 42 days in jail because he rolled his eyes at Mark Mcginnis when his case was dismissed nearly a month after he gets out of jail. Like, what? Did Mark go to jail? I feel like if you're going to send someone to jail for rolling their eyes at you, you probably don't need to be a judge. Like, let's get reasonable here. I feel like your maturity level should be up here. If you're a judge working in this type of environment, I feel like you would kind of expect people to come in without any respect for you, that's for sure. They're going to call you names, or they might even spit at you. You're going to be dealing with people that probably aren't too fond of the law and people that work in it. And I feel like as a judge, you have to understand that, and you have to understand that people come from backgrounds where they don't necessarily understand everything that they're doing. I'm just thinking out loud, but I feel like if someone became a judge, they would have to sort of expect this behavior from people. Like, if I was this person and I knew I was innocent, all I would want is a speedy trial to get in and out. I know I'm innocent, right? I'm rolling my eyes, whatever. Just let me in and out. That's all this man is trying to do. And I feel like, well, at least the way it looks here, is that he's trying to caution himself with how he speaks. And you can see that in the dashes. He's really trying to think about what he's saying to this judge before he says it. And nothing he says is good enough, it seems, right? Like, he's just trying to figure out how to explain himself in court. And Mark Mcginnis is just like, you cut me off. Clearly you don't understand. Like, why are you in this job, Mark? Like, what are you doing? Why are you here? You clearly don't like the people. It just doesn't seem like you really want this, So after Brian Mitchell is done trying to explain his case, saying, yeah, if my attorney goes on vacation, that's different, right? Like, Mcginnis goes, it wasn't a question for you, okay? So you use terms that don't make sense, which is okay. Then when we try to explain things to you, you appear or you seem to want to know everything, and then you seem to make more comments that don't make sense. So I'm not interested in trying to have a conversation with you where you and I both agree. It doesn't matter what he says, Mark. You're going to get pissed off and find some reason to be angry. You know, like that's the vibe I'm getting immediately from reading just what you've said. Me neither. Mcginnis says, I'm just telling you the reality of something. Mitchell says, okay. Mark Mcginnis says, okay, I want you to understand that today. Brian Mitchell says, I understood that already. Mark Mcginnis comes back and says, I wasn't done asking the question. For some reason, you have a problem with interrupting people when they are talking. You can roll your eyes. It's really impressive. Mark, if you think someone rolling their eyes is interrupting you, you have problems, my man. Come on. And you have kids, so I know your kids rolling your eyes at you when you make dumb decisions. Put them in, like, what do you do, dude? Like, if you're going to put someone in jail for 42 days, what do you do to the people around you when they disagree with you, you know? So Mitchell says, you have a problem the way you talk to people. Mark Mcginnis says, okay, good. Someday I'm going to sentence you. So this right here seems very, very vindictive, and it just became personal. And at least in my opinion, I don't think, why are you a judge? Like, this is, you're there to hear the evidence and see the case and try to make a decision based on what makes the most sense. But here, you're just poking the bear. You're just stoking the fire. You're purposely telling people, you have a problem. You know, I wasn't done asking the questions. You keep interrupting me. Yeah, you could keep rolling your eyes. You could keep giving me that fuck you look. Why is someone responsible for sentencing people with this kind of demeanor, you know? That is unacceptable. You can't, like, poke the people in your courtroom that are already upset about being there and then expect them to be calm about it, you know? Your job as a judge to judge them and sentence them and hear the evidence and try to be reasonable and follow the amendments and stuff, you know? Anyways, Mark Mcginnis says, okay, good. Someday I'm going to sentence you. Like, he's looking forward to it. Like, what? That's so fucked up. Brian Mitchell says, probably. Mark Mcginnis says, that's going to be a problem. Is that a threat, Mark Mcginnis? Brian Mitchell says, maybe. Mark Mcginnis says, for you that day. Brian Mitchell says, maybe. Mark Mcginnis says, maybe. For your sake, you better hope it doesn't happen because I have a pretty good memory of it, and if it... Brian Mitchell says, I'm innocent, so I don't worry about your sentencing. Mark Mcginnis says, you might be innocent. You might not have to worry about it. That's fine. Mitchell says, all right then. Mark Mcginnis says, are you done rolling your eyes? Mark, let it go, man. A few moments later, after another brief exchange, Mitchell urged Mcginnis to proceed with the hearing, right? So they're just going there back and forth. It's clear neither of them really want to be there. Anyways, Mark Mcginnis says, I'm trying, but you're interrupting it and creating nonsense by rolling your eyes and other antics. The other antics, by the way, is like his papers fell on the floor and he was picking up papers. So he's creating nonsense because he's rolling his... I would roll my fucking eyes too at you, Mark Mcginnis, because you're a clown, bro. I would roll my eyes if you purposely ask me a question, then when I answer it, you tell me that's not a good enough answer. Or you ask me a question, then when I answer, you tell me I'm interrupting. Brian Mitchell says that's not interrupting if I'm rolling my eyes. I can roll my eyes. Mark Mcginnis says, no, you can't roll your eyes, sir. I'm going to find you in contempt of court for your conduct today for the disrespect to the court. Is there anything you'd like to say before I impose a consequence for that? I want to pause and show you that Mark Mcginnis has done stuff like this before. He finds people in contempt of court, but then it gets overturned. But nothing ever happens to the judge. So in 2013, the State Court of Appeals overturned a third truancy court ruling, that of a 17-year-old girl Mcginnis ordered to spend 30 days in jail for contempt of court. This is what he said. If you violate any of the orders I just gave you, you could be found and will be found if the city makes a motion in contempt of court. In its overturning of the decision, the Court of Appeals added it was troubled by Mark Mcginnis' decision to jail the student when the end goal of the contempt hearing should have been to get her to follow his order and return to class, not to punish her with a month-long jail sentence, which obviously she's going to miss class. Mcginnis told the student that she could turn her jail time into house arrest with an ankle monitor if she registered for summer school, but the appeals judge asked how could she comply when she has no money to pay for the registration. After the student actually served her time, she apologized to Mark Mcginnis. I'm sorry that you had to apologize to this jerk. Mark Mcginnis said, apologize to yourself because you're the one who's going to suffer consequences. Mcginnis responded to the girl as he sentenced her to jail. We are all going home this weekend. We are all going to enjoy this beautiful weather. As he sentences a 17-year-old girl in contempt of court that got overturned. I'm going to go enjoy this weather and you're going to be in jail. Mark, get the fuck out of office. Mark Mcginnis says, I'm going to sentence you to 6 months in jail. That sentence begins today. You may purge that contempt with by writing an apology letter to me. You going to make him sit there and handwrite an apology because you got mad he rolled his eyes? This sounds like a personal problem and the power has gone to your head, man. How are you still a judge? Anyways, Brian D. Mitchell says, I will. Mark Mcginnis says, and secondly, by appearing here in court and making a verbal apology. Brian Mitchell says, I will. Mark Mcginnis says, and you have to pay $5,000. If you purge that contempt by doing these three things, then the contempt is purged and you're no longer sitting in jail. Otherwise, you will sit for 6 months in lockup. Anything else on that issue, sir? Brian Mitchell says, no. Mark Mcginnis comes back again to stoke the fire. Okay, so you can keep rolling your eyes, then I will keep giving you 6 months where you can grow up and handle yourself the way that people are supposed to handle themselves in court. Who's the one here that really sounds like they need to grow up? You, Mark. Brian Mitchell says, do I get an appointed attorney? Can I? Mark Mcginnis interrupts, says, I asked if you had any questions about that. Brian Mitchell says, can I argue that? Mark Mcginnis says, argue what? Brian Mitchell says, the sentence you just gave me, your charge. Mark Mcginnis says, you can do anything you want. You can keep rolling your eyes if you want, like you said. You told me a couple minutes ago you can roll your eyes. Sure, you can go ahead and roll your eyes, but I can go ahead and do what I want to do. Don't get me wrong here. I understand there's supposed to be a professional demeanor in the courtroom, and you're supposed to just nod and say, okay, yes, no, yes, yes, Your Honor, whatever, right? Like, I get that you're not supposed to be a jerk to the person that's going to judge you, but, I mean, it just seems like Mark doesn't have any patience to begin with. And as a judge, it's your job to deal with people that come into the courtroom that have these sorts of behaviors, you know? I feel like at a certain point, it would just stop affecting you. It wouldn't go the other way and become personal. You keep doing that, and I'll keep sentencing you. You know, I'm going to be the one that's sentencing you, so you better remember this. You know, like, what the fuck is all that about, you know? That doesn't seem like it would be in the character of any good judge to do. Yes, it's disrespectful. I will give him that. Like, yes, doing this, like, is disrespectful. But as a judge, why take it personal? You're a judge. I'm sure you get this shit all the time.
Former students, current students, and their parents call to an end to truancy court, which they say has wreaked havoc on their lives.
I will forever have scars on my body reminding me of the time in my life I constantly felt like I was a delinquent criminal mistake. Like I wasn't smart enough, I didn't even matter.
Imagine your child taken away from school in shelter care, can't talk to her mom, her parents, none of that, and then you finally see them. That's traumatizing.
Well, anyways, guys, my camera stopped recording and my microphone accidentally muted, so I have to record this separately, and I figured we would end it here with this page. Anyways, that's today's update video. I hope it was entertaining. I hope you learned a thing or two. Stop telling people where you're going to go when you quit your job, and yeah, don't work for crappy people if you can avoid it. Hopefully that doesn't help anyone if I say that. It's Captain Hindsight as fuck. All right. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. If you enjoyed it, click like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys in the next one.